We always want to be break even within the first 6 months.
That's insane. That sounds very, very fast.
We will not be a gym who's going to oversell it. We want it to be busy. You love that kind of environment of like a busy gym, but you don't want to be where there is legit not a chess piece I can find right now. If you go to an LA Fitness in Fort Lauderdale, or if you go to an LA Fitness in Chicago, the outside of the building looks the same. The layout's basically the same. We don't want that.
Hello and welcome to Gym World Worldwide. I am your host, John Franklin, riding solo today because my co-host Mateo Lopez is unfortunately at a funeral. But the show must go on, and it's going to be a good show indeed because I have a very special guest from Franklin, Tennessee. He owns one of the coolest looking gyms. He has two gyms. They both look really cool, but one of them is the up there for one of the coolest ones I've ever seen. Got a very interesting backstory that we're going to go through. It is the man, the myth, the legend, Brent Laffey from Carbon Performance. How's it going?
How's it going, man? And thanks for having me on. Appreciate it and the kind words.
Yeah, you got a busy schedule here. You got your hand in a lot of pots, so we'll try and squeeze in 20 years of entrepreneurship into a couple minutes here, so we can talk about all your gym stuff because there's a lot going on. But give us the short version of how we ended up a gym owner.
Yeah, short version.
We
Obviously,
got time. It doesn't have to be
yeah.
60 seconds, but don't give me 30 minutes.
No, I'm pretty quick to the point. So, former athlete out of college, so always had a niche in strength training. Played college football, and started the business entrepreneurial side right out of college, and kind of grew. Ended up owning one of my own businesses, which was a contract manufacturer for nutritional supplements. So some of the brands you see out there, like Raw, Ghost, C4, we made those products. We formulated them, all that. I actually wanted to put a gym in the manufacturing facility. So I got with my HR director, like, I want to have my own gym. There was no gym in Franklin or Nashville that I truly loved. So I'm like, just build my own. She gave me about 100 reasons why I didn't want to from a liability perspective. So kind of crushed my dream of having a gym in the facility, which would have been great. So I actually, with my wife, started, call it a business, but really kind of more of our own personal gym. It was 4,000 square feet, called Carbon Culture in the very beginning. And I mean, we wanted to make money, but it was more for building the gym that I thought was missing in a small area. And if we made money, great. Well, that kind of obviously, started off small and then we've scaled it from then. So it was honestly more out of passion than it was, here's a business plan. Here's how big it is. Here's how much money we can bring in. Here's the cost. It was solely to have a gym that I thought was missing in the market. Didn't really, and I had so much money. I'm like, put into it. Once we lose it, we'll figure out what we're doing. It was not really a business strategy, to say the least.
So I'm going to pull up your Instagram here for the people watching on YouTube. You're absolutely shredded. Are you coming from like a bodybuilding background? You mentioned shows here, so I'm assuming you were doing some,
Yeah,
you know,
did. Obviously, like when I had the nutritional supplement manufacturing company, I was competing pretty competitively. And then in 23, I kind of switched it up. There's so much of shelf life of bodybuilding. So I figured my time had kind of come. I switched it up and started running to do a marathon, and then lost a bunch of muscle. And now I'm back in that phase of, like, I wouldn't call it bodybuilding and competing, but trying to get back to having some more muscle. So I always have some goal in mind, whether it's competing, running, doing high rocks. I got to have a goal outside of business to keep myself occupied.
for context, because you mentioned some large brands you're manufacturing for, but maybe not everyone listening to the show knows the background. Like this was not a lifestyle business. It sounded like you had 800 employees and were operating out of over 300,000 square feet. Is that right?
Yeah, at the end, we were fortunate enough to have that many employees, and we had two sites, one in Tennessee here, and then one in Salt Lake City. And I think they combined, like, square footage was like 700 and something between the two, so 700,000 square feet. So yeah, it became a big operation.
So this was legit just something you wanted to exist, because I'm assuming you were stressed out, and I would imagine running a business this size is not like the easiest lifestyle in the world.
No.
And so was this was just scratching your own itch essentially.
Yeah, I mean, for most people, they'd be like, "Why would you do something else that's more stressful, like bodybuilding?" But for me, at the time, and then looking back, maybe it wasn't, but it was kind of my like, you go in the gym, it's like your therapy, right? Put the headphones on, no one to talk to, just lift weights, you know, you versus you kind of thing, and it was almost like my therapy for the kind of the crazy business. Some people that doesn't make sense, but some people I think can resonate to that.
I mean, just I'm sure having all that routine is helpful too outside and like in your personal life as
Yeah, because
well.
people always like crack up and like it's like you don't have time. Like you definitely have time. Like you just got to pencil it in and stick to it, right? So that's kind of it. Always like was one of those things that bothered me. Is like, well, I just don't have time. Like, I mean, no one has time unless you make time, right? So yeah, very regimented, very like militant on time management, which helped the business too.
And so it started as kind of this little, not little, but it was like 4,000 square feet, right?
Yeah,
Did I
it's
get that?
tiny.
And then so how did that turn into a 30,000 square foot thing? Like, at what point were you like, hey, this isn't a side project anymore? This is, taking more and more of my should deserve more of my attention.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, like. And again, like anybody, we made so many mistakes along the way. Like, I feel like I did a good job of making every mistake before we decided to really scale it. And like, we first we had 4,000 square feet. Then we're like, oh, we need more. Well, there was a CrossFit gym next to us. At this point, I had never done CrossFit my entire life, bought the CrossFit gym just so we could have the space. It wasn't a great integration, didn't really work, but we ended up getting the space, right? So then it went to 8,000 square feet. And then we opened a gym in Murfreesboro, same size, 8,000 square feet. And at the time, partnered with Brandon Curry, who at the time was the Mr. Olympia. So he had won the 2019 Olympia. So we had a good story. It's his hometown, have the gym there. And then as we got going, I mean, we weren't we were having success, but what I started realizing is like if I want to make this a business, we needed to change the model. At 8,000, you need to become very premium and very expensive, or you need more real estate to have more volume, right? So we got an opportunity to take over a gym in Franklin behind our small gym, and it was called Franklin Athletic Club. And it wasn't like a purchase. It was their time was ending. We could go in and take 32,000 square feet. That is when it became serious because then my risk became more from at the time it was just me and my wife. Yeah, that's actually what it looked like up top before.
It
Um,
looks like a gym.
yeah, I
I
mean,
can see why
very,
you didn't find one you liked in Franklin if
yeah.
this was your option.
It had good bones, man. Like I could see it. It just didn't have some. Yeah, you can see like how it was in the top versus the bottom. So
Just a
yeah,
little
we took that
dated.
over, gave it a rebrand, and had some pretty cool marketing behind it. We changed all the equipment. We didn't like shortcut anything. We probably, to some people, maybe like spent money that didn't even make sense, but we wanted to make sure the product was the way we wanted it. And yeah, it was great. We kicked off that gym actually. We bought it in June of 22. And when we redid it, we opened it up in November of 22 to Chris Bumstead Q&A. And the place was filled, you know, a couple thousand people. We got all over YouTube because obviously, you know, from Chris's exposure plus everybody else's. And all of a sudden it was just like gangbusters. The membership started flying in and all of a sudden it felt like shit, we have ourselves a business, and it kind of happened fast. And then I wanted to grow this business, but I didn't know, like, do you franchise it, do you do it yourself? There's obviously pros and cons, and luckily I have a cousin who's in the franchise game who's much smarter than I am and gave me about a million reasons why I wouldn't be the right guy to franchise it. And what we ended up doing is finding an operating partner called Maxim Partners, who came in and is looking. They've been looking at tons of gyms. They were looking at bigger box gyms and couldn't find one. But I knew them from the supplement space, and which is great. You get to interview someone when you're not interviewing them. So I knew how they act. I knew they were passionate about it. They came in and saw our vision for the gym, and all they wanted to do was add resources, which was at the time just me and my wife, and we were part time because we have other businesses and jobs. They came in,
Yeah.
yeah, they came in the summer of 23, right after we opened Franklin, and great, we got a CEO out of it who is day to day, and then we signed a lease for Nashville, opened that went successfully. Now we signed a lease for Atlanta, and we'll be opening sometime late summer early fall, and then we're very close to signing another lease as well out of state. So like they kind of gave us the resources we needed to expand. So that's kind of where it started and kind of where we're at today.
Oh, so you're moving fast. You're not messing around here.
Trying to, and I think it's always good. You have kind of myself and the CEO are very fast moving, and then my wife, who's the one who designs them, does the construction. She's kind of that yin and yang. I mean, she doesn't want to slow us down, but she wants to make sure everything is right. So I feel like we have a healthy balance of go fast, but also make sure the playbook's right, make sure we're ready to scale, make sure we can handle everything right.
So for the initial Franklin location where you changed over the health club, did you buy that building or were you buying the actual like the assets and leased out the building?
Dude, such a weird one. This is like untraditional how we did it. So the way it happened is the building we were in, which was separated from that building, is the same property company, which is called Brixmore, huge commercial real estate company. They said that this building behind you is coming up in X month. Do you want it? Right? They gave us a deal, sounded good. So we were going to do it. At the time, that gym that was behind us, which was Franklin Athletic Club, they did not know. And it wasn't really our obligation to tell them. That's a thing between them and Brixmore. But as they got closer, I was thinking, like, there's just the optics look bad, right? We come, take it out, like, didn't look good. So we went to the owner, and their business had not been doing great, so they weren't going to re-sign the lease. So we worked out a deal to try to keep some of their members and give them some love for that, right? So we bought their equipment and gave them a deal on the first year for the members that stayed. And what happened is that, a lot of the members stayed. We gave them some royalties for it. And then the equipment, most of it we used for outdoor, our different places. It wasn't really the core. Sold some of it. It wasn't the equipment that we were going to long term use. We actually used it for the first few months till we get our equipment in, then took it all out and put in all the Arsenal, Prime, Panada, the newer equipment. So that's not I guess you'd call it an asset sale, but it was not a traditional, like, it's kind of like a back of the napkin wheel and deal.
Sounded like you were helping them out more than anything else there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things you kind of look back and you're like, I don't regret it, but sometimes you wonder, if you did it the other way, how would it have gone, right?
Yeah. This model is interesting to me. It's definitely something, not necessarily something exactly like yours, but we are seeing these kind of hybrid, not quite like a lifetime size, but not like a 10,000 square foot like strength gym. So somewhere in the middle there, very high build out, very luxury feeling gyms popping up over the market. There very much is demand for this. How are you? Positioning yourself in terms of like your pricing?
That's a great question. I mean, yeah, this is kind of a new model, new era, right? So, um, we want to be affordable in the sense of like giving people who do want to take it that next level the opportunity to train if they're not wealthy. But we also want to have added amenities to where, like you feel like you're at a lifetime in a sense when it comes to like some of the nicer stuff. So we have kind of a two-tiered, well, really even in some cases a three-tiered. So we have a general carbon performance membership that, for example, in Franklin is 75, and in the city it's 89.99. It's a pretty reasonable price, and we don't have a lot of let's say people combating that price. And then we have another tier, which is closer to 200, that gives you access to a 24/7 gym that's exclusive in the sense of there's only so many memberships sold. So you know that it's not going to be overcrowded. You get your individual locker room that has a cold plunge, a sauna, and a shower. So you're not sharing with anyone. You can do all those recovery tools and get ready without anybody else in there. And then it gives you access to a class called Carbon Edge that's kind of a higher level strength boot camp. And that would be the highest tier. And then it gives you access to the big gym if you want to use that as well too. So that's kind of that.
You've made it like a club within a club, basically.
Yeah. So even in Nashville, when you walk in, the walkway splits the two gyms. If you go to the right, you check into Carbon Performance. If you go to the left, it actually goes to Carbon Elite. So they're actually two different buildings, but a walkway to separate them.
And did you design this like this initially? Like, was this your idea, or is this something that just kind of evolved?
Evolved, yeah. I mean, obviously, in the first one, we were given, a building that was already had some footprint to it, so we couldn't quite do it. We came back and retrofitted it, and we have an area now with cold plunges, the recovery tools in Franklin, but it wasn't like the individual locker rooms, and that will be the go forward path. When we get to Atlanta, it'll be the same thing. The only thing that we're adding, which I think people will appreciate, is common workspace. So if you pay for the elite membership, you'll be able to do all the recovery stuff. You'll have access to basically go hotspot in, get a monitor, have a lounge to work out of, obviously have a fridge, coffee available, and all of that to kind of like call it we work in a sense. That will be one added thing. And it's again, like I told you, is like we feel like Nashville, we got 95% right. But these are the little things you keep adding and evolving as you go, what you learn what people want, what people don't want, what mistakes you made. So every gym will have a little splash of something different. And then also too, we don't want it to be like a even I mean lifetime hell of a standard. So this is not knocking them at all. Maybe LA Fitness is a better example. If you go to an LA Fitness in Fort Lauderdale, or if you go to an LA Fitness in Chicago, the outside of the building looks the same. The layout's basically the same. We don't want that. We want it to be a different experience, right? So like when you get to Nashville, it's got more of a urban metro feel to it, graffiti art in there, a little splash of Nashville. Franklin will be different to that. There'll be like there'll be some staples. The lobby always may look the same, but like how the gym has and some of the artwork and the way it's the buildings are all going to look different. We like that. We want it to all have its own signature and not be the same cookie cutter gym at every place.
And is everything, all these locations that you're opening up in the future here, do you want to stay around that 30,000 square foot footprint, or is the idea to keep getting bigger, bigger, bigger?
I totally based on the environment and what's available. 30 is kind of our like we have to cut down on amenities if we go any lower. So that's really close to our minimum. But the lease that we're trying to close is 46,000, and which is great. Gives you ability to do other things like we're kicking a can down the road, but it's like you could do an all women's area. You could do XYZ. So if anything, we'll add amenities. It will never be shrinking from what the staple is right now.
Hey gym owners, are you looking for a way to generate more leads, close more sales, and increase client retention? Introducing Kilo. We are a software company that gives gym owners the tools they need to increase revenue and run a successful gym. With Kilo, you get a beautifully designed website to capture more leads, an integrated marketing automation platform to increase sales, and our gym management software so you can add new client memberships, process payments, and organize your class schedule. If you're ready to upgrade your gym management software, book a call at usekilo.com.
It looks like you're spending some coin outfitting these things, and you throw around Arsenal and Panada and Prime. Those aren't cheap things to put together. Like, what do the economics look like on the back end? How many people, how many members can one of these things hold?
Yeah. And we're still learning, right? One thing that we're learning is Nashville grew very fast, right? Within 6 months, we had a lot of members. I wouldn't call it close to cap, but like it's a conversation we'll have. The goal would be that these could comfortably fit 4 to 5 thousand members. But the difference is, which I do appreciate, is our check-in rate is very high. So like, we're getting on an average daily basis, call it 35 to 40% of the members are checking in, which is, the gym space is a very high number for a big box gym. So positive is you have good retention because people use it. Negative is, in a Planet Fitness, you can have 12,000 because only 5% are checking in daily. So that's kind of the pros and cons. But we hope 4 to 5,000 in most of our locations we can fit. And we will not be a gym who's going to oversell it. We want it to be busy. You love that kind of environment of like a busy gym, but you don't want to be where there is legit not a chess piece I can find right now. Once it gets to that point, we're going to cap it out, get a wait list. So when someone cancels or moves or whatever it is, we call you, welcome you in, right? Like that is not the game we're going to play because I feel like so many gyms they grow so fast. It's the hot spot and then it ruins its reputation because it's too crowded.
So how many did you get in that first 6 months in the Franklin location?
Franklin was pretty dang good. Not as good as Nashville, but we got 2,500 ish in Franklin.
And you grew faster in Nashville?
Yeah, actually, sorry, 2000 in Franklin in that time frame. We've grown it obviously since then because we brought on a pretty good management team as well. And then yeah, Nashville we grew faster than that.
And so you mentioned, the initial one having Sebum there and influencers, obviously filming in the gym, and kind of gave you that initial surge. What is you got a couple openings on the horizon here. Like what is your strategy for packing out a new gym?
Yeah, it's going to be a good challenge. Always in a new area, right? So we we we've hired a team that's bigger than the two gyms right now. So like I told you, we have a CEO. We've hired a district manager who had tons of experience. We've hired someone to run all of our group fitness and personal training to basically train and implement in every gym. And then we hired a brand manager, which, a lot of gyms that are too deep probably don't have a brand manager, but like this guy is very important from the aspects of the digital marketing we're doing to, just brand identity, but more importantly, community involvement once we get out there. So we'll have a 4 or 5 month pre-sale in Atlanta. And we'll have a team there. We'll have a small office to where one, they're going and making connections, going visiting business to business. We're going to do events where we bring influencers in, give away shit, to actually like making it more of a community type feel to it. And we'll use the influencers that gets closer to just get spotlights on the gym, right? If you have access to a C-bum or this person or that person, all it is basically giving you an opportunity, and then from there they have to buy into the brand, the gym, the message, right? So yeah, we'll spend 5 months on that in that city, marketing, kind of call it on the street level. And we did that in Nashville. We had unfortunately in Nashville we didn't have like an office. We had like a, I don't even know how to explain it, like a trailer. It was the most unattractive thing you could do for pre-sale, but we had 4 people in there that were just slinging memberships and making sure that they're out meeting people, and it worked out really really well. So it's an investment, right? It's a lot of times is like the gym's not making any money yet. You can't bill anybody until you open. So a lot of people and can't or don't want to spend that money 4 or 5 months in advance, and they wait till day one, and that's fine. Sometimes you're not, but we were able to basically forecast it and had people on the street 4 or 5 months in advance of the gym opening.
So what's the idea behind the build? What's making it look good and having the best equipment? Is that something that allows you to charge a better price point? Is it just part of the brand and attracts people like these, C-bums of the world to partner with you? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, our original thing was like, and now you're seeing more gyms kind of step into this arena. So it's not such a novelty. But when we started 5 years ago, it was like you think hardcore and you think of like gyms that were kind of like dungeons and like, concrete slabs, blaring heavy metal, and that was badass. And then you had lifetimes where the amenities were fantastic. You would eat off the floor, but when you go to train, it just didn't have that environment. It's like life fitness or techno. It's one size fits all, and there's not an environment. So like, how do we blend hardcore with a 5-star hotel approach and make it one, right? And that's what we're trying to do. So like, it's hardcore in the sense, obviously it's black, it looks tough. The machines are all the best machines you can basically get. So from a training perspective, you can't ask for more. But at the same time, you can go in the locker room and feel like you could take your shoes off and not get a tetanus shot. That is kind of the goal, right? And then to have cold plunges, saunas, a full on smoothie bar. So yeah, it was kind of blending the hardcore with the 5-star hotel and making it, which I think is more applicable for this generation. Not as many people in their 20s want to go to, L's Dungeon and lift.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's still a place for those gyms. I actually personally like them from time to time. But you know what I mean? It's not for everyone. And then also, the name is something to us. It's obviously pretty like, it means what but like basically like we didn't want to have necessarily gym in it. Originally it was carbon culture, which I loved, appreciated it more. But like when you go to do SEO, carbon culture is pretty hard to identify with. We
Sounds
came,
like a very nice coffee shop.
yeah, I mean it could be, dude. It's funny enough is in Nashville there's a Top Barber, and it's called Culture Nashville. They now are inside our gym cutting hair, and it's called Culture. So we got a little bit of the culture left, but what carbon is like, it's, it's obviously there's a meaning behind it. So like it's one of the most robust elements. It's a hexagon. So if you look, it's all of our lights are the hexagons. It's not just like every gym who threw up those stupid slabs of hexagons down the hallway. We have them at all different levels, and it's part of the whole carbon experience. So it's just like there's a deeper meaning behind the brand. And even when we do apparel, you're not going to see like a tank top that looks like your normal. It's going to be more lifestyle, which I think people can resonate with and want to wear it out, which has been one of the coolest things, seeing people actually wear this stuff out, not just in a gym. So it's kind of all those things, trying to make it a brand, a culture, a place that you actually want to spend time at. So that's really been our goal.
So a lot of the listeners will be coming from the CrossFit world, and in a traditional CrossFit gym, you're making like 90+% of your revenue from group training. So, very, very tiny little retail area. Maybe you sell some shirts, maybe you sell some ready to drink beverages, but it's a tiny fraction of your revenue. And I think that's something that coaching gyms can learn from bigger box gyms. What are some of the other revenue streams? Because I know you got a lot of stuff inside of these gyms that are kind of interesting perks here.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So there's a couple different avenues. Obviously, memberships is still number one, right? Number two behind that is probably personal training. We do a really nice job. It's been harder post COVID for gyms to do good personal training. First step was we hired someone who can actually run it and hire teams, implement process. He's done a great job. So personal training is number two. Then he does our group training, which is our boot camps, which have done pretty well as well too, which is an additional add-on. Then from there, supplements and apparel do really well. One, we try to carry brands that are fitting to the clientele. So like Raw is a big brand in there. And the apparel is kind of like the sneaker slash drop. I think we're doing every 4 to 6 weeks, we'll do drops, right? And they pretty much sell out. So that's become a good revenue stream, and especially as you add more gyms, it becomes even greater. And then in the cafe, obviously, we're doing a variety of meals. I mean, it's just anything from plain bodybuilder style, from chicken and rice to we have a local company who makes like Greek bowls, makes hot Nashville chicken bowls, to all these different things, to we have a local cookie company, and like all these little things add up. So I mean, in the theory is like, we can get 45% of revenue some months outside of memberships, which is great. It's a truly a lot of added revenue services outside of just the membership.
And did you mention the med spas as well? I don't.
Yeah, I didn't. They're not part of Carbon, but so we did buy into a franchise called Relive for the med spas. In Franklin, it's inside the gym in its own like box where you have to walk in, and it's got a proper like lobby. And then in Nashville, it's actually downstairs. So we offer for all our Carbon members generally 15 to 25% off services. We do blood work week, where basically you can get a 52 marker panel for $99, which is like unheard of. So there's a lot of perks of being a Carbon member because of like the affiliate brand and Relive, right? So you can get IVs, you can get blood work if you need HRT, peptides, lasers. I mean, all that stuff that's right there at the fingertips. We have a barber. So you want to, look fresh on the way out, you can do that as well too. So, I mean, we try to make it an experience, and some of those services don't necessarily like the barber. It's not a money maker for us. To me, it's just another thing of why they want to come to the gym and make their life easier.
And so you're a part of that business, but it's a separate business from Carbon
Yeah,
itself.
on Relive, the med spa, yeah. It's so we own it, but it's a different business. Inside Franklin, we actually built up walls and have an office in there. And then in Nashville, it's literally just right downstairs. So super convenient. And, a lot of our members take advantage of it.
So how many people does it take to staff one of these things? It sounds like quite the operation.
Yeah, it's pretty labor intensive. In Nashville, we probably have 50 to 60 employees. And, you have a wide range. You have some full time to a lot of part time people that make up the shifts, right? But like we've been very lucky. We have really good instructors, great PT, and the management team that we've hired. I mean, feel pretty lucky that we're only 2 gyms in, obviously adding 3 and 4, but like have a team with a lot of experience. So it obviously helps on all that.
And so, you scaled a pretty big business before this. When did you sell the supplement manufacturing business?
The first sale was in 19, and then I stayed on until 22, to the end of 22.
Okay, so there was like a little bit of overlap, but you were.
Yeah. Yeah, the first 2 years of the gym were pretty small. We really turned it up in 22 when we took over what was Franklin Athletic Club. And then the next year, we obviously brought on Maxim. So, like, that's when things really started to, like, heat up and actually expand.
That was your operating partner that you
Hmm.
mentioned
Yeah.
previously? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And so you scaled a pretty big business before this. What's your plan with Carbon?
That's a great question. I don't think we know the end yet. Right now, zero desire to franchise. That's not
I
in the
don't blame
cards.
you.
Yeah, and
Sounds
I'm not saying that's,
awful.
yeah, it's just not for us. We want to spend the next 3 or 4 years adding 2 to 3 a year and get ourselves there, see what it looks like. Do we have everything that we need? Do we need to change the model at all before you go from that next, when you go from 10 to whatever the amount might be, 40 or 50 to go kind of nationwide? Just make sure the DNA is good, which I think it will be because the premise of the whole thing is around strength training. So, like, even in the gyms, the middle of the whole gym is based on strength training. That's what we are. Everything on the outside is all of these, like, the extra things that can change. One day it's Pilates, the next day it may be some sort of burn boot camp type style. Like, that stuff we can interchange, but the premise of this gym will always be around strength training.
Obviously, takes a lot of money to start one of these things. How long typically do you budget out to get one of them to breaking even?
So, like, well, I guess, like, not necessarily paying back what you put in, but you mean from an operating income standpoint, breaking even?
Exactly. It's not, you're not writing a check every month to keep it afloat.
Yeah, gotcha. I think our budget in Nashville was we opened in July, and we at some point in quarter 4 wanted to be break even, and knock on wood, we exceeded that. So we did that one really fast. But I don't know if that, we got to do more of them before we see that's the precedent. But we always want to be break even within the first 6 months.
That's insane. That sounds very, very fast.
Yeah, and then hey, we got to prove it out, right? But that's definitely the goal. I think if with the pre-sale and good marketing and brand awareness out of the gate, it should be doable. But again, it's like we're willing to spend some money up front before the gym opens, which I think makes that whole first 6 months a lot easier than starting fresh from day one.
Spending money up front, meaning that's like your
People,
team
marketing.
that's pounding the pavement and trying to get
Yeah.
membership. Do you do like a 1 year commitment, or do you just collect the first payment and you consider that a win?
Dollar down to hold your spot, and then we don't bill you till we open. And then it's generally, the way that we price them is people generally go for the 1 year commitment just because it's more reasonable.
And so, we've talked a lot about the marketing in terms of the space, the aesthetic, the brand. We talked about some of the things that you're doing to engage with people around you. Are you doing any type of paid marketing?
We are. At first, we did not. Like, I am basically naive to it. Luckily, we brought in some people who understand it a lot better. So it is a blend of organic off of our social media, doing the right triggers to get things out. And then we do work with a local company here they actually are in Nashville called Brotherdale that helps us with content creation and digital marketing spend. And they have been fantastic. They fit the brand, we're in sync, and yeah, we're spending some money each month on pushing out digital ads. We do a little bit of spend on SEO as well too to help us there. Between SEO and digital ad spend is really where we're spending money.
And do you do any type of like promo, discounting, that type of stuff, or is it trying to keep it the price is the price?
Yeah, the price is the price. Not a fan of that. I feel like it's a slippery slope. And what we do though is there's activation fees. So generally, we will pick times to pull that lever of to either slash it, waive it, something like that on the activation fee versus slashing our price. We kind of have a minimum we hold to. When we do our pre-sale, though, those first like 2 months, we do start at a lower, like let people come in as founding fathers, limited amounts of those, and they get in at a cheaper price. So some of the people in Nashville are, $15 a month cheaper than new people now because they jumped on it quickly.
We talked about it's about 50 a location. You're going to have 4 here soon. What are you doing in terms of like continued education improvement? I think I read somewhere you were running EOS. Like, what can you give people in terms of like if they want to scale, operate a big business? What type of stuff can they? What type of stuff have you found helpful as improving as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, dude, ever evolving. I definitely have my weaknesses. It's build a team who obviously is not afraid to tell you, right? So we run EOS, which is a management system, and in the biannual or annual ones, you're openly talking about each other's strengths and weaknesses, and that is honestly eye opening because if you have a team you really like, you take those things, serious, right? So that's probably I used to have an executive coach that I met with. I have stopped that in the last year, but that used to be where I spent a lot of my time improving, and now it's just getting feedback, right? So we do this meeting, and it's very well done. We have actually an outside facilitator. So it's not someone within the company, which I definitely to all business owners recommend because someone who's in there has the blinders on and already has their mind made up in some level. So we bring in a very educated man who's been around a lot of businesses who facilitates our biannual and annual meeting. And it starts off on company SWOT, your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, threats as a business, as individuals, what you like about someone, what they need to work on. I mean, it's a very, pretty serious thing. And we luckily have a group here that's very open and tells you how it is. So I've learned from them on like, hey, you jump in some things you don't need to. That's my job. That's something as an entrepreneur you can be guilty all the time of, right? Like I'm not in the day to day. It's the first time I haven't been like the CEO. So when you jump in, that can somewhat be disrespectful, right? So learning from the team how to do that, how to go about things, where they need help, where they don't. That's been my biggest learning in this group, and they're doing extremely well. And the more that you give them, the better they do. So I keep learning and find out where my flaws are every 6 months from these guys.
I don't think we covered that. What is your role in the business? I think I glossed over that when you said you hired a CEO pretty early on.
Yeah, I don't do shit. No, very much on really like brand relationships from influencers to the equipment companies to like connections, right? That's obviously not really a job. That's just kind of being a founder. Help with the branding, the vision of where the brand's going. Then me and my wife split really. She does more of the hard work, but like when it comes to finding locations, the CEO is big on that. But then when we get the location, doing the build out, the layout, the look, the equipment layout, all of that, big part. And then being part of the opening, part of the pre-sale, making sure we're marketing like that. And then once that's done, we have such a good team. They're the operators. So once the gym's actually open and running, I'm in there. I'm giving suggestions, but reality is we have a team who's running it, which is great. So that's really where I'm more involved is where are we going? What's the vision? How innovation, keeping things new and fresh, and then marketing.
So you're like the chairman of the board. That's what it
Yeah, I mean, I
sounds
don't.
like.
Yeah, I guess I don't do much. It's great, but I've. It's been fun for me because like you go from wanting to control things because you created this thing to you ran it, and then you get good people on, which we have now, and it's fun to watch them run with it and have as much ownership as we do. So it's been a lot easier in the last probably 6 months to 1 year, especially the last 6 months. They've had a lot of success, and it becomes easier for you to take that back seat and focus on where we're going versus like in the day to day, right?
A little off topic, but it's easy enough to do the napkin math if you're a guy with some money that like, oh, you can do this and you can get 4,000 members paying you X amount, and this could be a good business. As someone who owned and operated gyms, I know what goes into it. So the napkin math can be deceiving, but if you're just a guy with some money, can you do this? Or like, how much of an edge is your relationships that you cultivated from the supplement business and bodybuilding and doing all that previously? Like, do you think you need that in order to succeed in a concept like this?
No, not. I mean, definitely not. I think it's helped accelerate it, and I think we had brand awareness long before we were a big gym, just because we had eyeballs on it because of people. It doesn't mean that you don't, because you can succeed. And I think I would just say, if it's someone who has money though, like, you got to have an operator. It's not one of those businesses you can be like, all right, I got $10 million. I can do one or two of these. I'm going to go do it and figure it out. Like, you have to know who that operator is, right? Like, that's the key. It's kind of like they say bars, restaurants, and gyms are all the same. You got to have someone in there that runs it like they own it, whether they do have ownership or not. So I think that's like the big mistake, where some people think you can build a badass gym, but if you have horrible operators, it'll still fail.
So is that like that $5 million build mark? Is that kind of like the low end for something like this?
I'm not going to go into that, but I mean, I'll say it's not cheap.
Yeah,
You need
doesn't
some
look
cash.
cheap.
No, it's just like, how it is. Everything is more expensive than I mean, it's like people kind of think about, you see the equipment and you kind of go, oh, it's, this piece is 3,000, this is 4,000, they have 100. Okay, it's that. Okay, it's about the electrical unit that you had to bring in. It's about the HVAC. It's about all that shit that just adds up. And when you have 32,000 square feet, all that stuff really starts to add up. So I think it's even more costly, I think, than some people
Yeah, you got the
think.
lighting, the lockers, the turf,
Yeah,
the fans, all the
yep.
restaurant stuff, the marble in the bathroom.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just goes on forever and ever and ever. And your exteriors are really nice as well. So,
What sucks is,
yeah,
though, the money you spend a lot of money on, people don't even see, right? Like, how much we spent on electrical panels in Nashville. Cool. No one sees the value in that, right? But you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to get all these electrical panels to run. Cardio equipment's not easy on.
treadmills, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
the game. That's where I think you learn a lot as you go, right?
Yeah, and
And the
you learn
paper, the
those.
paper,
Those are all expensive lessons, and
for
uh,
sure, man. And all the paper, like you said, like, I was that person where I feel like I'm pretty good at numbers. I could do paper math on a gym, and I'd be like, shit, this is a no brainer. And then you get in there, and there's all these intangible costs that you don't foresee for every single thing you do, right?
there are other people tackling like a similar style, aesthetic, size. Who else do you think's doing a good job at kind of this more modern gym concept?
The guys in Canada were the first to really do it, I thought, which is Pure Muscle.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've heard of them, out of Toronto. They owned a supplement brand called HD Muscle. They did it. I mean, loved it. Got to know Dorian, learned a little bit from him too. He's done a great job. You can't argue and say, like, Absolute Recomp in Texas. It's not for everyone. It's a lot, but you got to respect the what they've done. It's bold. They've done big things, so I think they're doing a good job. It's just, what I start looking at is like, what's like the best look that's most scalable, because that's ultimately who's going to win, right? Like, I mean, who spends the most money is not going to be necessarily the winner.
right. Can a city sustain like 3, 4 of these type of gyms? Do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the growing metro cities can. And what we're seeing is, honestly, that's probably a better market a little bit, is sometimes those metro areas too. It's got that demographic we like, the age. But like, I think Nashville, if we added one more, we'd kind of be at that's probably good, right? Because we have suburban Franklin. We have now the West Side, which is the nation's. Add one more, and I think you're kind of capped. You'd start to cannibalize, I think, after that. And that's a big city, right? So obviously that's a second tier city. So if you have a Chicago, New York, LA, they probably could handle more, but it's also a tougher market.
Right. I'm just trying to think because everyone's expand. Not everyone, but you got some doing in Texas, some in Philadelphia. We've seen a couple in California, and everyone's trying to branch out and conquer all these different places, and I'm trying to. I don't think we've seen a few go like head to head yet.
Yeah, I know. I think that's what we always talk about. Eventually, it's going to happen, right? It's like you got Fusion that's in whatever it is, New York or New Jersey or Philly. You
They're
got
in like
absolute,
Pennsylvania. I think there's a
yeah,
couple other ones now, but
absolute
yeah,
recomp in Texas, Austin, Tennessee, Pure Muscles in Canada. So there isn't one where you see them just like go at it, right? So it's going to happen, I'm sure.
a lot of times there's one that's succeeding. That's probably a sign that there can be two. You know, I
Yeah,
feel like I feel
for
like one
sure.
successful one is probably there's a market for it. So it's
For sure.
I guess if you think about it in terms of, you can take members from Lifetime, you can take members from the LA Fitnesses of the world, like in our business, gym management software, it's like all the kind of new up and coming ones. While people cross shop us, the reality is the customers come from the stodgy older ones of the world because, that's where people are the most unhappy. Where I would imagine people who go to your gym like going there.
Yeah, that is exactly it. Is like take a Lifetime. We come in town, they're not going to sweat us because they're so successful, but we will take members there that couldn't find a gym that had the amenities like Lifetime. But the people first will jump like when they strength training is the number one focus for them. They'll see a carbon and potentially jump. But the people who want the classes, all the amenities, they don't care. They're going to stay. But yeah, you're going to peel someone off from a couple different gyms. Then you're going to have someone at LA Fitness who doesn't want to pay Lifetime, but they'll pay 30 more or 40 more for carbon. So like that is the nice thing is where we can pull from different levers. Whereas like when you open a Lifetime, you're probably not getting the Planet Fitness guy.
No, I mean
Yeah.
I think the one by me is over 300 a month now, and they're
Yeah.
on a wait list.
Yeah, they're nice, man. Like, but again, it's like family of four, you're paying what, 550 or something?
Yeah, so this is the one by me here in Palm Beach Gardens. It's that whole complex. It's 140,000 square feet,
That's a big one.
and I'm pretty sure, yeah, they're literally on a wait list. I don't know if this is a marketing tactic or not, but
I think it's
um,
like from what I've heard is like it's a sense of reality. I mean, they get to a certain spot, they want to raise the prices too, so they do it for that part, but like they do wait for some people to kind of get out of there. But like, I mean, they're crowded, man. The one in Franklin, like it is a zoo.
I've been to the one in Franklin actually. I played pickleball in the one in Franklin, and yeah, it's the one here is much nicer. But yeah, that's the thing. It's a little less consistent because they've been around for some of them. I think they're going back and updating a lot of the legacy clubs, but you get a lot of the value at a gym like yours for $79.
It just is the priority, like for us, is if their priority is strength training, like they're going to likely jump. If their priority is not, it's daycare, it's classes, it's the pool, they're going to stay there, right? And that's fine. I mean, that's fine. But like, that's the nice part is we've been able to like peel off a little bit from each place, and which makes us not so dependent on like crushing one gym. We kind of can be attractive for people at multiple gyms, which is good.
I'm interested to see how it shakes out. I mean, we're pushing towards the top of the hour here. You said you like to manage your time. I want to be respectful of it as well. Appreciate you doing this.
Yeah.
For people who want to follow along in the journey, where can they go to find you?
Yeah, so I mean the gyms are carbon performance underscore and then carbon underscore nations underscore. Those are the two things for the gym, and mine's just Brent underscore Laffy. But yeah, we'll have a lot of exciting content coming probably in about a month or two on as us building out the Atlanta facility, and we love to do the whole behind the scenes kind of weekly updates, what we're going through from construction to all that. So should be a fun little journey, especially if you're a gym owner. You can laugh at us and the mistakes we make, or know the pinch points we're going through.
I just followed. I thought I was following, but I'm following along now. I'm looking forward
Very
to it. And
awesome, man.
gym owners, if you got value out of this, it is not easy to find high level gym owners like this. Bring them onto the show and ask them tough questions. Ask them to give all their secret sauce to you. So subscribe, share with a gym owner in need, and when you are ready to leave your old stodgy gym management software behind, go to usekilo.com and book a call with my friend Mateo Lopez. He will take care of you. Until next week, we love you. See you later.